And speaking of fuel subsidies, that's Angola. How about Nigeria? The proprietary patent medicine vendors and pharmacy owners in Nigeria are worried that the recent fuel subsidy removal by the government would have major impact on healthcare distribution in the country. It's estimated that there are over 200,000 proprietary patent medicine vendors in Nigeria, and their operations and businesses could be negatively impacted. We're going to get into the business of the pharmacies now as we bring on the show Samuel Okwuada, who is the CEO and co-founder of Remedial Health. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. So, yes, what are the impact of the fuel subsidy removal that you and other professional pharmacists and vendors are seeing in your sector?
Thank you for having me. In Nigeria currently, healthcare distribution is still very archaic. And what I mean by that is you have different pharmaceutical companies selling to pharmacies and PPMVs independently on their own, trying to reach the whole country by themselves. You also have these three important markets in Nigeria: Kano, Lagos, and Onitsha, where we sell medicines wholesale in an open market. So that is medicine distribution in Nigeria as it is. As against developed countries where you have big distributors that can reach the whole country, and manufacturers, suppliers just have to sell to these people who then distribute to pharmacies. The way we have it currently, all sorts of problems. As you can imagine, counterfeit is one of the biggest. We have somewhere around 40% counterfeit medicines in Nigeria. Moving medicines from one place to the other is incredibly difficult. As you can imagine, even with moving general goods, say from Kano to Lagos, or Lagos to Sokoto, for example. So it is challenging. It has already been a bad system, and I would say it's getting even worse with everything that has been going on, from fuel scarcity all the way to subsidy removal, and then just general decrease in people's ability to buy medicines that they need.
All right. So basically, you're saying that your distribution network is archaic. So the distribution network in Nigeria is pretty archaic, meaning that it's primarily by road. And with the removal of fuel subsidies, that is going to increase your transportation costs, which then impacts your profit margins. Am I understanding you?
Exactly, correct. So I'll give you an example. So we at Remedial, we are trying to be that distributor for pharmacies and PPMVs all over the country. So if you're a manufacturer, you just need to speak to us and we get items to any part of the country. To do this, we've had to build our own logistics department. In fact, we sort of refer to it as a separate company. And that is because we've had to operate our own fleet of vehicles. We pretty much are across the country every single day. We go through the normal problems that every Nigerian goes through going on our roads, from bad roads to inability to get petrol at good quality, even on our roads, to multiple extortions, not just from law enforcement, but even from, would I call them so-called emblem boys who have papers to sell you every other week, even though they've known you and they've just sold a paper to you the previous week. So it's been challenging. Now with subsidy removal, I would say for us, it's a bittersweet pill to swallow. Bitter in the sense that logistics costs have gone up pretty much 2x, 2.5x since the subsidy removal. We have to find this money from somewhere. It means prices of medicines have to go up. For a population that finds it difficult to even procure these medicines in the first place, it means people are not getting the medicines that they need to get, in some cases, life-saving medicines. A sweet pill in the sense that as a business person, it was required for us to remove subsidy at some point. So it's not all negative. And we sort of think things will adjust at some point. It's just Right now, there are no palliatives for people to be able to get the items that they need, especially life-saving medicines. So it means that at the end of the day, Nigerians suffer when they're not able to get these medicines that they need.
Gotcha. Now, the whole, so are you, well, you're in your sector, so you would support palliatives there, but that would mean that that would mean a subsidy on life-saving medicines provided by the government. Is that what you would advocate for in order to assist Nigerians that need those medicines? And if the answer is yes, how long do you keep that going? Because we've seen other examples in other countries where I think there's the European Central Bank, or maybe some other governments in Spain or so on, maybe even the United States, where there was an end date for palliatives. So they would provide the subsidies for a period of time, and then it would end. How do you think? Let's assume the government calls you into Aso Rock, and you have a meeting with Minister of the Health Ministry, and they ask you and say, hey, tell us how these palliatives are going to work. How do you think the system would be put in place, and is it going to be there forever?
Okay, good, very good question. So I think palliatives in the sense of maybe reducing the prices of medicines, I don't think we should go that route. As much as it would benefit us as a business, I think for the country, it would not necessarily be a good thing. The question would be, how do you run that sort of process? What sort of medicines would you be doing this subsidy on? There are different kinds of medicines, several categories. How do you pick which ones are very important to do this for? What I would say is general palliatives for people. So for example, if it's some sort of stipend for people below a certain income, just so that they're able to use this money for whatever they think is more important to them. If it's buying the life-saving medicines that they need, then they can use that money to do it. If it is food, again, they should be free to be able to do it. So I wouldn't say subsidy again on medicines. Instead, I'd say some sort of stipend for people below a certain income.
Now, as far as the manufacturing of these medicines, we're still very import dependent on them. Yeah, is that correct?
Yes, very, very correct. 85% to 90% of medicines we take in Nigeria are imported, primarily from India and China.
Gotcha. Now, what needs to be done to create value chains in Nigeria to where we can replicate what they're doing in China and India? India, the Prime Minister Modi is in the United States. They rolled out a red carpet for him, looking at all the investment that's going to be pouring into India, big deals announced to the United States. So India is a very attractive bride right now for a lot of countries. So is it power? What do we need here in order to reduce our import dependency and be able to manufacture more? And if we did that, would that hurt you? Would that hurt your business if Nigeria is manufacturing all our drugs here?
So it wouldn't hurt us. We're a distributor of medicines, whether it's imported or manufactured here. In fact, I dare say about 60 to 65% of every medicine we sell at Remedial Health are generic medicines produced in Nigeria by the likes of Emzor, Fitzin, May and Baker. So we do have some big manufacturers that do have considerable market share at the moment. So we wouldn't be hurt by Nigeria producing more. To be honest, I think after COVID, it was pretty clear to every country, and to be honest, even to Nigeria, because we did say it. The problem is the lack of action to back everything we've said. Health is a matter of national security. If you have another pandemic, God forbid in the future, and countries are shutting their borders and saying, hey, we cannot export medicines. And this happened. So India did it for maybe 2-3 months during COVID, where they released a list of medicines and they said, hey, you can't export any of these medicines out of India. Now, we suffer if we're importing 80 to 85% of our medicines from these countries. So we need to produce more. What do we need to do to get to that? Multiple things. One, ease of business. Again, we've been talking a lot about it. Not a lot of action has been seen. We need to make it easy for people to consider setting up factories in Nigeria. If it is cheaper for me to produce in India and import, why would I go through the headache of producing in Nigeria? And it's not just power. So power is a big one, actually. Or it's not just power. It's ability to set up companies easily. It's ability to move money into the country and get it out if I need to. Thankfully, with the multiple exchange rates gone, we should see some positive with that. It's being able to get the right people within the country and not just getting them, but being able to retain them. I complained about multiple extortions, even just moving items from one state to the other. Again, we need to get rid of those. It's security. So it's a bunch of things that we need to do. And people like ourselves, business people, would find those opportunities and set up those factories. It's only bound to happen when the right environment is in place.
Great stuff. Aside fuel subsidies, with everything you've listed, particularly for healthcare now, the challenges that operators and investors are facing in Nigeria's patent medicine and pharmacy business, is it difficult to get a patent? Do you have to jump through a bunch of hoops? Are there bribes that need to be paid? What's that challenge looking like, or process rather?
So to be able to set up a PPMV or a pharmacy, it's a regulated sector. So you have to go through to the regulator. Thankfully, the regulator in health in Nigeria, I would say, is pretty strict. And I would say it's one of the shining lights of Nigeria. They do their job. You would have to go to them. If you want to set up a pharmacy, for example, you need to have a pharmacist on ground. And if you don't, it's not possible for you to be able to pass through. Now, it doesn't mean we don't have people who are operating without those licenses. It just means that definitely if you are caught, then you have to face the law. Whether they are bribes, I wouldn't say so. When we were setting up Remedial Health, we didn't have to tip anyone. We had to go through the process. It was a tedious process. It does take some time. I wish the regulator can actually reduce that. I also imagine that they are probably stretched. But yes, there can be improvement. It's a regulated sector. And I would say that they are one of the shining lights in Nigeria at the moment. Because, again, we're talking about medicines. If people take bad medicines, which tends to happen currently in Nigeria, it would be really terrible. I would say even for us to be at 40%, the regulator has to fight to keep us at that. We're hoping to reduce it. But without a regulator or an efficient regulator, at least to the point we're at, pretty much everything we sell in Nigeria would be counterfeit, unfortunately.
All right, so good stuff. The regulator is doing their thing in the healthcare space. I have to ask you something. Before you, our last segment, we had an entrepreneur in California, and he's running a logistics business focused on Nigeria. You're in London. You're running a pharmaceutical delivery business or logistics in Nigeria. Is that what's happening here? Is this the jackpot trend where young entrepreneurs are going overseas but still running businesses in Nigeria? What is happening? Why am I not talking to you here in this studio in Lagos or our studio in Abuja? Briefly, if you can.
All right. So no, it's not jackpot for me, at least personally. I studied in the UK. I studied pharmacy in the UK, so I've always sort of been here. I wanted to do something back home, and that was why I moved back to Nigeria to do that. So I sort of keep two addresses at the moment. On a good day, you'll find me in Lagos. In fact, by next week, if you want me to come into the studio, I would be in Lagos. So I'm 90% of the time in Lagos, and when I need to clear my head and decompress a bit, then yes, you'll find me in London.
Okay, so there we have it. We're going to have Samuel Okwuada, founder and CEO, co-founder of Remedial Health, next time in our studio live to talk more about the healthcare sector. Samuel, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for a great conversation.